Welcome everybody to the Social Dig, the greatest underrated show on the World Wide Web. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. And as always, we're going to be digging into the topics to keep you talking and the talk that keeps you thinking. So come on in, kick your feet up, get an ice cold beverage, get ready to join the conversation. Yes, another fantastic episode right here at the Social Dig Live, the Hump Day Show, every Wednesday. This is the Hump Day Show. We will be getting into some real good stuff tonight, but this evening, if you want to call it that. Either way it goes, we're going to have a fantastic time. We're going to move the needle a little bit tonight like we always do. Definitely glad to be here, glad to have everyone show up here as well, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this after the fact. It's all good. The archives are free right here at the Social Dig. As always, no paywall for enlightenment. That's what I'm talking about here as we go ahead and get ready to get the show underway. Let me see who's come in so far. Bim Jim showed up here. He's here. Miss Captain Jones is also here. Area 51 is here as well. Because he says we bring the heat, never bring the sleep. And I love that. Captain Jones, Miss Captain Jones saying hello, Mr. Rob G. And okay, Bim Jim. Now what? Is this the date? Oh, it says in 16 hours. Okay, yeah. So he left this earlier, Bim Jim. If you're going to show up tonight, it's all good. We're going to have a great time tonight, getting into some good stuff as always. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the slide like we always do every show because it matters, right? The Social Dig, where you get your enlightenment. You can ask the chat at any time by calling the number 856-843-3444, or that's 856-THE-DIGG. Once again, 24-hour line. You can call at any time of the day or night. You can call just to say hello. Sometimes that's nice to do. You can go ahead and call in, leave your experience on the message line. As long as you stay under 3 minutes, right? You can go ahead and do that as well. All we ask is no profanity, no politics. Try to keep it on the subject within the realm of the phenomena like we always do here. Also, let me go ahead and get into some other stuff here. That's the number. Lock it in your phone. Make sure you have that. And we're going to go ahead and talk about some other stuff here. We have memberships available. Become a social soldier today. Once again, no paywalls for the content. Becoming a member just helps the show out on the back end because there are fees. There are definitely things that cost to put these shows on, but I'm going to do it regardless of the fact because I've been doing it for over the last year. You guys know that. Want to shout out the members we have so far as well. We got Maggie M10, who has grabbed the membership. We got The Beekeeper. We got D. Nunley. We got T-Bone. And we have Ann Joanne. Welcome to the Social Dig, Social Soldiers. Thank you for becoming a member. Thank you for helping support the show. It's going to go a long way. I promise you. Awesome content. I got shows cooked up already in my mind, things that we're going to do here. This channel is going to grow and grow and grow. And we're going to do it just like we always do. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get ready to get into the show. Not going to hold you up for too long. Definitely want to make sure we get in and we get out. I do, though, want to talk about as well. We have the social shop, right, where you can get the swag. Let me go ahead and put that up here. The social shop is live and available. It's been live for like a year. I just haven't promoted it. But now it's time to do that. So you can go ahead and grab your Social Dig hoodies and all sorts of other various content there. This is my experience with the Phenomena hoodies. Looks pretty dope, actually. I'm going to have to cop some of these for myself as well. And we have, like I said, a bunch of other stuff there. We're adding things every day. And I'm going to have a humanity t-shirt that I'm putting together. I'm putting the idea together for, something that really represents what it is that we do here. And this humanity t-shirt I've had on my mind and on the back burner for at least 8 months now, maybe longer than that. But I haven't, I've been waiting for the perfect moment to bring that forward. And I think that'll be here pretty soon. So guys, make sure you go and check out the social shop. You can find all these links right right here on the page, the community tab at the Social Dig. Also, in the description of most of the videos is where you can find the membership links. And super chats are open here, super stickers as well for the show. Any support helps make this a better show, right? Let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to jump right into our news of the week. Actually, before I do that, let me make sure that I say, hey, what's up to Simon the Likeable, saying, hey, Rob, didn't know this was on, caught it by accident. Hey, Area 51, long time to see. Hey, Miss Catherine. Yes, definitely. We are, I don't know what's going on with that. I've had this set up for at least over a week, but thanks for letting me know, Simon, as we go ahead and get ready to jump into disclosure news. In disclosure news. So we had a few things going on here. There was a story that had come out, as you may already know here, about the secret program called Immaculate Constellation. We're going to go ahead and read an article in regards to that, maybe have some conversation on that. Also, Christopher Sharp had, I guess, mentioned a USO recovery program. Someone else actually, he didn't initially include it in a story that he put out recently for various reasons, but someone actually put it out without his consent, and so he had to go ahead and speak to this story about a USO recovery program. We know we have them on ground all the way back to Roswell that we know of, maybe even further back than that. And so why wouldn't they be recovering these things underwater, right? Only makes sense. Only makes sense. So we're going to be talking about that and kind of seeing what you guys think about that before we jump into the main meat and potatoes of the show. So with that being said, let's go ahead and pick up on the first story, which is the Immaculate Constellation, which was, that's gonna be the new phrase, right, for the next little while, being that it's something that's been uncovered as a potential secret program, special access program that the government has had. We know that we know that the UFOs are real. Let's start there. We know that a lot of people have seen them. I've seen them. I've shown them to you on this channel and on Spaced Out Radio as well. We know that that's a fact. We know that Roswell, they went ahead and initially admitted to retrieving a crashed disc with potentially bodies inside, right? So none of this really is a surprise, but it is sort of surprising that they're, it's coming out the way that it is. Because I'm looking at it like this, we know they want to hold the secret in badly, as bad as they can. They want to hold this in, but it would appear that someone on the inside or individuals on the inside really want this to come out, which is why this information keeps coming to the forefront. So very awesome. We're going to go ahead and read a story on this, and this is actually, we're going to look at the video first. There's a video where we have Schellenberg, who actually wrote the article talking about this Immaculate Constellation, and we'll go from there. So let me go ahead and bring that up on here. Bookmarked it in my Twitter here, so let me go ahead and bring that up here. Okay, we got that here. All right. So let me go ahead and take this back to the beginning. Hopefully we don't get a copyright strike on this. We're providing commentary as well, so let's go.
A new whistleblower has come forward with a written report that this person has shared with some members of Congress and with me, and the report is quite extraordinary. It says that there is an unacknowledged special access program called Immaculate Constellation, which is the parent program, is the language used for exactly what you said: UAP, crash retrieval, reverse engineering, and apparently a very large database of high quality photographs, videos, infrared videos, apparently much more sophisticated documentation of many more UAP encounters than have been released. And so, without the article is really about the allegation that this program exists and that it has been withheld from Congress illegally.
And so let me stop it there real quick because we do want to provide commentary on this. So yeah, this is one of these programs that he states it's a parent program, right? So you have to ask yourself, how long has this program been in existence? Who's part of this program? I don't know if that information will come out. Hopefully it will. Apparently there's a whistleblower that he's speaking of that has brought this to the forefront. And I don't know if he says it in this video, but this person supposedly is outside of the loop of other whistleblowers. So it isn't like this person knew David Grush and they're sharing information. States that this person came from outside of that circle. So it'd be interesting to see where this goes. But let's go ahead and finish it up here.
I think it's important for viewers to understand that the first article of the United States Constitution requires congressional oversight of all of the activities of the executive branch of the United States government. So whether or not you think there are extraterrestrials or non-human intelligence or anything, even if you think that all of this is just some sort of advanced craft, the allegation here by a new whistleblower verified by other sources in a position to know is that the Pentagon the Defense Department has withheld, kept secret this information from Congress, which is a violation of the Constitution and illegal. So I think that what we're looking at here is really a story about the abuse of power, including in potential disinformation from the Pentagon, just as much as it is this other question of what exactly are people seeing in UAPs.
Okay, so with that being said, I think we've talked about, and actually the last show that we had here, we talked about whether these crafts were government craft, whether they were adversarial tech or alien tech. And I think we pretty much painted a good enough picture to show that it is very likely that triangle shaped craft that we see are potentially, derivatives of black projects that we've already released. And we went through the list. If you missed that video, go back and check the previous episode of the Social Dig where you see where we lay it out, all the different crafts, starting from at least the 1940s when we're talking about development beginning on the craft, all the way up through, I think the most recent one that came out was the B-21 bomber. And that, let's just say that's been in the works for the last 20 years. But it just shows, okay, so if we had triangle craft all the way up through at least 20 years ago on development of the B-21, then are you saying, for those who think that these things could be government craft, are you saying that they just all of a sudden switched lanes and started doing something different? Because none of the technology supposedly that if a Tic Tac or one of these other craft is considered to be governmental craft or adversarial, none of that tech has been implemented into any of the black projects that have come out yet. None of it. And I'm really, I really feel like we probably have not figured out anti-gravity. A lot of people try to say, and ask yourself that, right? Does it sound far-fetched to say that human beings have not figured out anti-gravity, or maybe don't have the ability to figure out something like that, or to create a craft in this current time that would be able to be transmedium and go from space to air to water and then back out? I mean, I don't think it's far off to say something like that, right? If we're looking at it from that side, then it'd be less likely, I would think, to be able to say any human being was able to come up with any of the stuff that we're seeing. And I would love to be proven wrong. So let's have one of these black projects come out that implement some of this technology that we're seeing. That way we can kind of put that to bed. But I think the evidence that we have likely points to the fact that the stuff that we're seeing is for sure not made by human beings. So there you go. Like I said, go watch the last episode where we talked about that more extensively. But let's go ahead and get into the story. So that was you heard Schellenberg speaking right there about the article and essentially what it was. That's why I wanted to play the video. So now what I want to do here is go ahead and pick up the article that he wrote. I want to read that here as we get into this here. So this is his tweet saying the U.S. government says it's not hiding the secret UAP UFO program, but dozens of whistleblowers say it is. And now a new whistleblower has come forward to reveal what the government is hiding, including the name of the secret program, which is revealed here for the first time. In the article that you see there at the public, Michael Schellenberger wrote the article, Pentagon is illegally hiding secret UFO program from Congress, whistleblowers allege. We're going to go ahead and jump into that story right now. All right. And let's see here. This is this one here. Okay. So, Pentagon is illegally hiding secret UFO program from Congress, whistleblowers allege. New government whistleblower reveals for the first time the name of the Unacknowledged Special Access Program, or USAP, for Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, or UAPs. One of the Congress's most important responsibilities is oversight of the executive branch in general and the military and intelligence community, IC, in particular. The first article of the United States Constitution specifies this responsibility. This role ensures that powerful governmental entities operate within the bounds of law, uphold democratic principles, and remain accountable to the American people. This responsibility extends to classified programs like special access programs or SAPs, SAPs. By law, the Department of Defense, or DOD, must notify the, quote, Gang of Eight, which are the chairpersons and ranking members of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees, and the majority and minority leaders of the House and Senate, and or the relevant congressional committees about their existence. The National Security Act of 1947, funny that it's 1947, right? National Security Act of 1947 requires that covert operations and compartmentalized access programs, or CAPs, CAPs, by intelligence agencies, including the military intelligence community, be reported to Congress. Specifically, the president must provide a written finding that justifies covert action and submit it to the House and Senate intelligence committees. While the military and IC may limit the amount of detail shared with Congress, the constitutional and legal responsibilities remain. Sunshine remains the best disinfectant. Readers are, of course, welcome to disbelieve the whistleblowers and evidence they provide of UAPs. I do not claim to know what they are. There is, however, a growing body of evidence that the government is not being transparent about what it knows about UAPs, and that elements within the military and IC are in violation of their constitutional duty to notify Congress of their operations. The Pentagon responded to this article after it was published. I have attached a full response at the bottom of the story, Michael Schellenberg, and we're going to go ahead and get into the article, because essentially what happened was he released the article. Then, of course, Pentagon DOD came behind it with their little response, and we'll talk about what that response was. No surprise in what that was, but we'll do that here. So the article, and I got to give credit, right, to the public and Michael Schellenberger as we shared this article on the show tonight. There is no evidence that non-human or extraterrestrial intelligence has visited Earth, according to a May 2024 report by the office the Pentagon created in 2022 to study unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, formerly called UFOs. The Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, assesses that the inaccurate claim that the USG is reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology and it's hiding it from Congress is, in large part, the report concluded, the result of circular reporting from a group of individuals who believe this to be the case, despite the lack of any evidence. The former director of Arrow has since resigned his position and has repeatedly dismissed and ridiculed the topic, claiming the talk of phenomena is due mainly to a small group of individuals in the grip of a rumor-based religion. But critics say that Arrow's 63-page history of the U.S. government's investigation into UAPs since the end of World War II was riddled with factual errors and poor referencing, including to Wikipedia. And the document was missing historical information that appeared in the 117-page UAP timeline document created by a former or existing U.S. government intelligence officer that the public published last year. Christopher Mellon, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense under President George H.W. Bush, wrote a lengthy rebuttal concluding, quote, "This is the most error-ridden and unsatisfactory government report I can recall reading during or after decades of government service." And major political figures, including Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump, Senator Marco Rubio, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and both Democrats and Republicans in Congress have vouched for the credibility of UAP witnesses and whistleblowers. Quote, "I've interviewed solid people," said former President Donald Trump in September. Quote, "Great pilots for the U.S. Air Force, etc. They've seen things they cannot explain," end quote. Trump has said repeatedly that the government has information about UAPs that it has not released. In 2020, during the podcast with the son, Donald Trump Jr., Trump said, quote, "I won't talk to you about what I know about it, but it's very interesting." In June of this year, Trump said the government has information about UAPs that is not released. Quote, "I have access," he said, "and I speak to people about it. I've actually had meetings on it, and they will tell you there's something going on." In 2021, former CIA Director John Brennan said, "I think some of the phenomena we may be seeing continue to be unexplained and might be some type of phenomena that results from something we don't yet understand and could involve some type of activity that some might say constitutes a different form of life." The same year, the current Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, said UAPs could constitute non-human intelligence, or NHI. In 2023, a high-ranking former intelligence officer named David Grush testified to Congress that the U.S. government had retrieved spacecraft of non-human origin and bodies, which U.S. government insiders told public was accurate. In July 2022, the Intelligence Community Inspector General concluded that Grush's complaint that elements of the IC had withheld or hidden UAP-related information from Congress to purposely and intentionally thwart legitimate congressional oversight of the UAP program was both credible and urgent. At the time, Charles McCullough III, the first Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, who the U.S. Senate had confirmed for his job in 2011, represented Grush. That does not mean that extraterrestrial beings occupy or are operating the UAPs, nor that the U.S. government and military contractors are hiding crashed alien spacecraft or bodies, as some former astronauts, former IC officers, and former military leaders claim. There are other explanations for UAPs. Current dominant alternative theories, including those put forward by Arrow, are that UAPs are some kind of natural phenomena we don't yet understand, like ball lightning or plasma. They could also be some part of some new U.S. or foreign government weapons program, such as drones, aircraft, balloons, CGI hoaxes, or birds. Other UAP skeptics say that the combination of government disinformation and social contagion, like the satanic panic of the 1980s or the Salem witch trials among UAP believers in the U.S. military, are driving the phenomena. It is possible that the Pentagon and CIA are still playing disinformation games with the American people to cover up unacknowledged programs, or that the intelligence and security agencies, as well as politicians, are creating a UAP hoax to frighten the public. And is it possible that whistleblowers are fabricating parts or all of their testimony? The U.S. Air Force alleged allegedly used disinformation against a UFO buff in the past to cover up a weapons program. Something similar could be happening today. However, no available evidence supports that theory, and so while this possibility should not be ignored, for it to be true, it would require a complicated conspiracy with unclear motivations. As Senator Rubio noted last year, quote, most of the UAP whistleblowers have held very high clearances in high positions within our government. So you do ask yourself, what incentive would so many people with that kind of qualification, these serious people, have to come forward and make something up? Rubio also said the individuals in, quote, high clearances and high positions within our government with, quote, firsthand knowledge of UAPs were, quote, fearful of harm coming to them. Grush and other UAP whistleblowers say the government retaliated against them and tried to stop them from going public. Last year, Senator Gillibrand said, there's a lot of fear, and so I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of it. I don't know if we'll ever get the information about special access programs that are need to know, only that Congress has not been read in on. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. The training and experience of many UAP witnesses and whistleblowers, including the U.S., IC, and military, undermine facile dismissals of all the individuals as cranks and grifters. In 2021, John Ratcliffe, the director of national intelligence under former President Trump, said that UAP demonstrated, quote, technologies that we don't have, and frankly, that we are not capable of defending against. And Ratcliffe said U.S. intelligence analysts had, quote, high confidence that foreign adversaries were not behind the famous Tic Tac UAP that 4 Navy pilots encountered over the water. Last October, the Office of Director of National Intelligence and the DoD pushed their 2023 annual report on UAPs. It said that, quote, many reports from military witness do represent potential safety of flight concerns, and there are some cases where reported UAP have potentially exhibited one or more concerning performance characteristics, such as high speed travel or unusual maneuverability. Finally, many videos and photographs cannot be easily dismissed, and people have reported similar UAPs before drones, aircraft, and CGI existed or were widespread. And now existing and former U.S. government officials have told members of Congress in Arrow that the Pentagon had broken the law by not revealing the significant body of information about UAPs, including military intelligence databases that have evidence of their existence as physical craft. One of these individuals is current or former U.S. government official acting as a UAP whistleblower. The person has written a report that says the executive branch has been managing UAP NHI issues without congressional knowledge, oversight, or authorization for some time, quite possibly decades. Furthermore, these individuals have revealed the name of an active and highly secretive DoD unacknowledged special access program, or USAP. The source of this document told public that the USAP is a strategic intelligence program that is part of the U.S. military's family of long-standing, highly sensitive programs dealing with various aspects of the UAP problem. Public is revealing its name here for the first time. So, yeah. So it's so sad, right? And you have to start asking yourself, if you're looking at this logically, you gotta start asking yourself, okay, it's an obvious attempt at this point with like Kirkpatrick and the things that he comes out and says, the statements that Susan Goff Go, whatever it is, the statements that she gives right after news like this breaks, that there's nothing to it here. And then a step further, you have Kirkpatrick, pointing out the religious aspects, and he's even made references of ufology being a cult, though we know there are parts of ufology that are pretty extreme and could be considered that. It's trying to paint the whole picture as if everybody that speaks about UFOs are kooks and crackpots, right? So it appears they're trying to whip up the stigma again, a fresh batch of stigma to go ahead and spread over the conversation again, even though we have more and more evidence and information that's coming out. Whistleblowers, they wanted to keep it to the government whistleblowers and government evidence, videos, things of that nature. So when these credible people come out that have, would otherwise, I'm sure, earned all sorts of medals for service and Nobel prizes and things of that nature, excuse me, and you're still going to go ahead, turn around and dismiss the validity of the things that they're saying, which I think is, I don't know, how do you, it's contradictory, I guess, is at best. So with that being said, there was something else that kind of stuck out, right? They were talking about the 2023 uh UAP, the UAP report that came out. There was another clip here that I had, or not a clip, but a post from Twitter where this person here, Curious NHI, says the term immaculate constellation is rarely searched for on Google, almost never. Of course, searches for it skyrocketed today, meaning when this article came out. But there was one other time it also displayed a large blip, June 2023, just as the modern UAP crash retrieval story broke. David Grush went public and hearings were planned. So for this to not be a program that doesn't exist, apparently, it had been searched for some reason back in June of 2023 when David Grush came out. That was the first time we're hearing immaculate constellation here within ufology publicly now. But this is what they showed. They showed a graph on that, right? This is what that graph looked like. So this is the Google search. Let's see if I can bring it up more. So that's the Google search. Flatline, 2019, flatline, 2021, flatline, 2022. All of a sudden, a spike right between June 18th to 24th, 2023. Then it flatlined again until now. So you'd say, okay, yeah, there's something to that maybe. But here's the other part of it. Another person posted right under that, and just like that, Google changed the results of this search, removing all history of any searches from this term in 2023. So it went from this graph to Google updating it to this. No spike in 2023. So no, that is that, what are you doing there? Is that messing with evidence there? I mean, come on now. This was the original graph. And once it was pointed out that there was a search, a spike in activity back in June of 2023, all of a sudden we get this. So I don't know how you feel about that, but that points to active cover-up. Active cover-up. Government, Google, and we've always had a problem with Google, right? Because Google has all of our information. They know everything about us. They know where we're at. A lot of people have Android phones. Google collects a lot of data on what you search, and sometimes even offers you things that you didn't search, but that maybe you spoke about with the phone around, and magically Google knows what it is that you. So Google is definitely, in cahoots in some form of fashion with this story. Obviously, if they remove the data, that's, I think, evidence of that right there. So I thought that was pretty interesting, troubling as well, but not surprising, right? Yeah. So with that being said, we can go ahead, and this is what happened right afterwards. So the New York Post writes a story, and I'll just read the first part of that because I think it's just pretty, peculiar how they go ahead and jump right on in, and and include the response from the DoD. So just real quick here. So the Pentagon denies report claiming to reveal name of top secret UFO program for the first time. The Pentagon has categorically denied a report claiming that a whistleblower has, for the first time, revealed the name of an ultra secret program investigating UFOs. The whistleblower has named and quote active and highly secretive unacknowledged special access program being illegally withheld from Congress, according to independent American journalist Michael Schellenberger, who wrote the previous article we read here, writing on his public Substack blog. Immaculate Constellation is allegedly the name of a program established by the Department of Defense in 2017 after the New York Times revealed the existence of an earlier UFO investigation effort, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or ATIP. The DoD, this is a quote, the DoD has no record, present or historical, of any type of SAP called Immaculate Constellation, Department of Defense spokeswoman Susan Goff said in a statement on Tuesday night after the article's publication. Sean Kirkpatrick, former director of Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, told the New York Post Stephen Greenstreet, quote, "There's no such thing. I had access to all of the unacknowledged special access programs and reviewed them with the SAPCO or SAPCO director." Now, Schellenberg wrote on X, "I stand by my story." So, yeah, classic misinformation. 3-car Molly shell game. Look over here while we do this over here. And I said this last year. At the end of last year, I said the government is drawing a line in the sand, and they're saying, we don't care what you think. We don't care what you want. We don't care what you're asking for. We're going to do what we want to do. We're going to release what we want to release. And it's evident every time Susan Goff comes out and releases a statement, the moment that something is brought out or is said, the same statement every single time. And we know there's too many people that know that these things exist, right? Too many, and it's like a slap in the face. It really is. I don't know what else to call it. It's troubling, but it shows you that this will never come out from the government. They will never admit it. With all the evidence that's in their face right now, they have a moment in time where they could step forward and be like, you know what? Yeah, this is what it is. Yeah, this, and try to make amends for it, but it's not going to happen. And you got to ask yourself why. So that's kind of the scary part of it. But moving on, we also had other news, right? So that's big in itself, that story right there. But we had recently some information that came out. Christopher Sharp had written an article, and apparently, from what I understand about this, it wasn't supposed to come out, the part regarding a USO recovery program. And someone, he stated, went back on the Wayback Machine and kind of dug up the original article and put it out there. And so he had to speak to it. And so there's only a short part of that article that really is, points to anything here. This is the part that was the part that he removed from the article and that he had to speak to because it was brought back out. So let's see. He was writing about the NDAA being squashed, essentially. And so I'm going to read the first few paragraphs here of it. It says, it was seen as the final opportunity for the amendment to be considered for inclusion in the law within the finalized version of the NDAA. As a result, the amendment known as the UAP Disclosure Act, or UAPDA, will not form part of any negotiations with the House of Representatives as they finalize the NDAA fiscal year 2025, which is expected to be signed into law by President Joe Biden. If passed, the UAPDA could have unleashed a process revealing that the U.S. government and defense contractors possess retrieved craft, which are, according to the act, capable of transmedium travel, instantaneous acceleration, hypersonic speeds, and positive lift. Liberation Times has learned that the CIA, currently facing mounting criticism over alleged dishonesty regarding anomalous health incidents, along with the Department of Defense and the Department of Energy, has consistently bypassed democratic oversight in retrieving advanced objects of unknown origin. According to Liberation Time sources, these materials are subsequently sent to national labs and select defense contractors, including Lockheed Martin. Multiple programs are understood to be orchestrated by the CIA's Directorate of Science and Technology and its Directorate of Operations alongside the Department of Defense. Liberation Times has uncovered details of an alleged program focused on retrieving advanced craft from beneath the sea, some reportedly of non human or unknown origin. This alleged program draws on multiple agencies and departments, specialized assets, and expertise to carry out these missions. Among those involved are the Maritime Branch of the CIA's Directorate of Operations, the U.S. Navy, the National Underwater Reconnaissance Office, jointly operated by the Navy and CIA, and United States Special Operations Command. It is further understood that the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution has provided deep submergence vehicles to support these retrieval efforts. Once recovered, these craft are allegedly transferred to the Office of Naval Research, which subsequently hands them over to defense contractors for detailed analysis. So that was really the part that he took out of the article, and he gave his reasons why he did that. But someone found the original article that had this included and put it out online, and so he had to speak to it. And so this is the part that was missing. So not really a surprise when you think about it, right? Because we talked about it. Roswell, that was one of the original crash retrievals, maybe even before that, Italy, right? We've been hearing about. So there's no wonder that they would been have retrieving things from underwater as well. It makes sense. And then the whole fact that we haven't explored 95% of the ocean, I've always felt like that probably isn't true. And we say that, it would, for someone to say that, it would be to kind of head you off, saying, hey, we don't really know what's down there. We don't really explore it. We've only explored 5% of the ocean, when really they likely have an extensive program, which is what it reads here, that has been down there retrieving craft. We probably have either submarines or some sort of underwater craft that are specifically designed to do those jobs, right? Because a submarine can't do it. We know that. So there has to be some sort of other vehicles that we have that are able to locate these things, retrieve them, and then bring them up to the surface. So not a surprise, not a surprise. But as more and more of this stuff comes out, we still get the canned responses from the government saying no programs like this exist. We don't have any evidence of X, Y, and Z. And it's just a lie, right? And they don't care. They don't care that you know it's a lie. They're just going to keep on saying it until you believe it or until you stop asking, right? That's just like someone giving you the same answer, and they're lying. You're looking them in the face and they're lying. What they're telling you is a lie. They know that but they're just going to keep saying it, because if we don't admit it, then it can't be true, right? Because we haven't admitted it. We keep saying no. So who do you believe? Do you believe the evidence, which is now overwhelming at this point, or do you believe us because we're the ones that supposedly have it and we're telling you no? You know what I mean? And I guess there's probably a group of people in the public that will just buy it, like, hey, and I think so. You listen to skeptics. Skeptics will be the first one to say, you see, they're saying no. You see, they keep saying they don't have it. So we don't have it, right? And they're counting on more people to, come to that conclusion. But for experiencers, that's never going to happen. And then more and more people who are open-minded coming in and viewing the evidence and seeing all these people that come out to whistleblow and talk about this stuff, they're kind of like, well, there's got to be something to this. There's got to be. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting, and that was pretty much it for the news. So we're gonna go ahead and jump out of the news and get into the rest of the show here. Here we go. All right, that was the this week in disclosure news. A lot of stuff going on, and hopefully we those hearings. We'll cover those obviously when they come up here. They're supposed to be coming up next month, and we'll hopefully maybe have some more information there. I've always said that the year was not going like as planned. We got up to about the 6th month of this year, and really no activity had taken place. But we knew Lou Elizondo's book was coming out. We knew James Fox documentary was out, which just came out. We knew that was coming. And then we suspected hearings. We didn't know for sure, but even though we only have, what is it, 3 4 months, well, 2 months left now, right? 2 3 months left in the year, we still have a chance of getting enough stuff happening to kind of at least lead us into the new year with momentum. So we'll see what happens here. But getting into the topic here, this is something I was thinking about like a couple weeks ago. Can humanity force alien contact? In you know, because if you listen to stories like we just went over in the news here, then it's not going to come from them. So there isn't, I don't think, a way to force the government to come out with information. We know we have to bring disclosure ourselves as humanity. So how could we do that, right? I think we have the tools to do that, and I think I've talked about some of these things before. And maybe, after we talk about this, maybe it's something we can do or put together, make happen. So, with that being said, I was thinking some of the most common ways we could do this. And we have something called remote viewing. So, remote viewing, we have remote viewers who have said that they, can remote view specific places. Some have remote viewed other planets. Some have remote viewed uh, onto ET spaceships, right? So I think that could be a tool that we would want to use, or that we could use in a situation like this. And I'm just kind of poking this around, because if we're going to talk about bringing disclosure from humanity, then we have to use the abilities that we have to make this happen. So I think in a collective effort, the things that we're going to go over here, I think if we were to sit down and really put a plan together with these things that we talk about, I don't see any reason why it couldn't happen. So we'll see. Now, remote viewing, we all know what it is, but for those who don't know, remote viewing is the practice of attempting to gather information about a distant or unseen target, typically a location, object, or event, without using any traditional sensory input. It is often described as a form of extrasensory perception, or ESP, or psychic ability, where individuals claim to perceive details beyond the limits of normal vision, regardless of physical distance or obstacles. The process involves a remote viewer who typically enters a relaxed or meditative state, focusing their mind on the target they are attempting to see. Through mental impressions, visions, or flashes of insight, the viewer tries to describe the target's characteristics, location, or event surrounding it. Unlike traditional psychic practices, remote viewing often follows specific protocols to control and document the viewer's experience, aiming to remove bias and increase accuracy. Remote viewing gained attention in the 1970s when it was studied and used by government agencies like the CIA and military intelligence as part of programs like Project Stargate. These programs sought to determine whether remote viewing could be applied to intelligence gathering or military purposes. And we know that happened. We have the now declassified documents showing that that program existed, and they were doing that. So, I've always asked, it's obvious that the government knows we have some sort of abilities as human beings, outside of the ones that we're aware of, that most of us are aware of. And, there's been situations where I've talked to remote viewers, or even overheard a conversation from remote viewers who have said things like, there's been times where they remote viewed and it appeared that the subject was aware that they were being remote viewed. In some cases, like with the extraterrestrial remote viewing, that the extraterrestrial they are remote viewing is aware that they are, able to see where they're at within that room. So that obviously would be a way, if extraterrestrials can pick up on the fact that someone is remote viewing them. If remote viewing is a thing, I've never done it myself, so I can only speak to what people have said to me, but it would be a way, I would think, to get their attention, to say, hey, okay, this human being is trying to get the attention of the thing that they're remote viewing, which in this case that we're talking today, would be extraterrestrials on a spaceship or on some planet or somewhere where they, are looking at here. So let me just look in the chat here, right here. Kurt M stating how put off hinted that the military is still using remote viewing, and I wouldn't doubt it. If it's a real thing, then we know that if they've not perfected it then, that they're still trying to perfect it now. Um, let's see. Mike Jones says the declassified KGB files on remote viewing is a great compliment to the declassified CIA files. Definitely. Is remote viewing contact though? Area 51 asks. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. When I say that, I'm just thinking in if the stories that have been told about remote viewing, there's been stories that the subject of the remote view has had an awareness that they were being remote viewed by someone, right? And so that's a connection, that's a contact. Now, if the extraterrestrial in this case would know that it's a human being doing the remote viewing, that's to be seen. Maybe they do. But the thing is that from where you're sitting, how could you reach out and touch these ETs wherever they are, right? If you have the ability to get their attention, even whether that's through remote viewing or whatever you're doing, then I think that that's a tool, one of the tools, not the only tool, but one of the tools that we supposedly have the ability to do, and should be implementing when we talk about bringing disclosure. So I think that that's definitely, let's see, Earth Goat Trees. On my other channel, I did a dowsing reading and found that three-letter agencies astral project and astral harass certain group of people, and have been for a long time. See, that's what I'm talking about. See, I've never been remote viewed that I know of. I don't think I want to, truthfully, but I've heard of cases of the subjects having an awareness that something is viewing them or remote viewing them. Maybe that's that feeling you get when you feel like somebody's watching you, but you turn around and nobody's there, but you swear something's watching you, right? It might be that. But if that's a thing, that's a way to reach out and make some sort of connection with that subject that you're viewing, which is what I'm really trying to say here. So, yeah, and astral projecting, maybe, and that's the thing. We don't have the definitions of these things, so we don't know. Astral projecting could be a form of remote viewing. It could be somehow related, right? At the end of the day, we put these labels on them, but they could be one and the same, or they could be very much related, right? And so, talking through this, that's where we're going here. Hey, Christine, thanks for coming on in, Christine. And let me see here. Let me see who else put something in here. Yeah, I think we pretty much know about. I think we pretty much know about the remote viewing aspect, but I just want to throw that one in there, right? Because I know, it's technically not contact, but because subjects have been aware of the remote viewing or shown awareness, then technically that is a form of contact, right? So moving on, we have the next one, which I think is a big thing here: extraterrestrial channeling. Now, this is a situation where, I've talked to people that have said they channeled extraterrestrials. Now, that's direct contact. That's speaking directly with or essentially speaking for or speaking to directly to one of these extraterrestrial beings, right? So, let me go ahead and give you the outline of that for those who don't know, because we want to educate those who may not understand what extraterrestrial channeling is. But channeling alien contact refers to the practice of using a psychic or spiritual connection to communicate with extraterrestrial beings or their consciousness. In this process, a person, often called a channeler or medium, claims to receive messages, knowledge, or guidance from extraterrestrial entities. These messages may come in the form of spoken words, visions, impressions, or even feelings that the channeler interprets and relays to others. Channelers often enter a meditative or trance like state to make contact, allowing themselves to become a conduit for the extraterrestrial being's thoughts or energy. The entities being channeled are often described as advanced or enlightened beings from other planets, star systems, or dimensions, and their messages typically focus on topics such as spiritual growth, universal consciousness, or the future of humanity. And I've told you the story before myself. I talked about right before my first sighting, even though I don't connect the two things, I still keep them separate. I don't think they're related, but the person I was speaking to 6, 7 days before my sighting, my very first sighting, um, was a reptilian channeler. And channelers are supposed to be able to speak directly to these ETs. Sometimes they have a one particular ET that they connect with, and they're able to get information, they're able to ask questions. I've had channelers, in that case the channeler asked me if I would like to meet one of these extraterrestrials. I told him yes. We've never hooked back up after that, but I've had channelers say that yeah, we could sit down and you could ask questions to the ET can respond back to you through the channeler. So that is a form of direct contact. And so, if that's something that we could do here within ufology, if it's a thing, and I've had a lot of people say that it is, then that's just another tool that we have to bring disclosure outside of the government. This doesn't include the government at all. This is simply sitting down with another, person within ufology who has an ability to do this thing, right? And this is where I would want to call on multiple channelers in this case, multiple remote viewers, not just one, multiple. Let's try to get as many together as possible. Why can't we do this? Why can't we make this happen? I think we can. I think we can. And I think if it's successful, then these things will be what we can use to kind of force the hand of the contact, put it more on our time scale than on their time scale, right? And there's other methods as well, as we'll kind of find out here. But as far as channeling goes, let me just see, are there any channelers in the audience, first of all, because I'm speaking to you. If there's channelers out here, I'm speaking to you. Let's see. Um, okay, Earth Goat Trees, exactly. That's the feeling. And yes, if they are in your energy gathering info, then you can do the same with them. and gather their information too. Okay, this is still about remote viewing, and let me see. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Challenge accepted. Challenge. That's what I'm talking about. Why not? Why it should be. It should be. It should definitely be. Now, Woo Riders DG, Derek Galloway says channeling very dangerous, in my opinion. And it could be because we're asking for contact essentially. That's the whole point of this show is how could we force aliens to show themselves? How could we force a situation where it's undeniable what's happening here, right? And remote viewing and channeling would be two strong candidates that we have in our arsenal that we should be using to go ahead and try to make this happen. Why not? Why not? Why wouldn't we? We're all sitting around waiting for the day that contact happens. We're all sitting around for the day that ships just show up in the sky on their own. We're all waiting for the day that the government finally says that they have these things. But why aren't we waiting for the day where we've sat down and used the abilities that we have within ufology to make this happen? I won't ever understand that. And until we try that, I think we should do it. But moving on. We have one of the more obvious ones here, which is Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, or CE5. Now, this is really what drove this mindset for me, because CE5 is supposed to be. I've talked to people you've seen on the After Hours show where some people are saying 90% success rate. Brian Bowden. I've talked to Sir Brian Bowden. I've talked to Deb Shakti. I've talked to a lot of different people who do CE5 and will say that it has a high success rate and it's something that we could try to pull off. So for those who don't know, the new people out there to this subject, CE5, or Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, refers to human initiated contact with extraterrestrial beings, or UFOs. It is the fifth category in a scale developed by astronomer and UFO researcher J. Allen Hynek, who originally classified encounters of UFOs into three types: CE1, CE2, CE3. CE4 was later added, referring to cases of alien abduction. CE5 involves purposeful, proactive attempts to communicate or interact with extraterrestrial intelligences. This is often done through meditation, visualization, and sending telepathic messages or signals in the hope of initiating contact. Dr. Stephen Greer, a prominent advocate for CE5 protocols, has popularized this concept through his work with the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, or CSETI. CE5 practitioners believe that peaceful and conscious communication with extraterrestrial beings can lead to contact experiences or sightings or UFOs, facilitating a deeper connection between humanity and non-human intelligences. And this is one of those things, right? So CE5 would be definitely one of the ways to do it. I've talked about this. You've heard me talk about this on the show, saying if we had the ability to get all the best CE5 specialists together and sit out and have a moment where we did this live on TV for the world to see, right? If we broadcast live to land on the moon, something momentous for humanity, this would be just as momentous, if not more momentous. So this situation like this would deserve some sort of global televised event where we sat down and did this. Now the problem with that is that if it failed, if we brought all these people together, remote viewers, channelers, C5 specialists, all together, televised event, live, and we attempted to do this and we got zero results from that, it would probably set us back some, even though we know these things work in some cases here. But that's why I've asked so many different people who do this, like, what do you think the success rate is? Because obviously you don't want to set this up and then look like a fool. Essentially, you want to set this up to show that this works, first of all, and then for two, that these things are here, and kind of solidify that for the world at one time. So let me see what anyone is saying about CE5 here. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, so this is the shadow person question. Mike Jones, Mr. G got a question on a closed subject. The picture taken in the hallway was someone's back to the shadow. There was no one there. So essentially, that camera angle that you're getting, that was on a phone mount, and it was being hung from a door. So it was a door that was closed, a bedroom door. And so the phone is looking down the hall, and my daughter would have been standing right where you see that bathroom door off to the right. She would have been standing right there doing dances or whatnot. She went into that bathroom, and then that's when that picture was taken. Earth Goat Trees. I didn't know I was a natural channeler until about 3 months ago. I didn't know I was being channeled. Right. And Joanne, today I meditated and got all these pictures in my mind's eye. Never happened before, just snippets. Okay. And that's what I'm talking about. So let's see. Earth Goat Trees. That is correct, Mr. Rob G. You're so right. Why wait? That's why I began dowsing. I want true answers. I douse to find answers to the big, big questions. Yeah. Ange, hey, Ange, thanks for coming in. Well said, Mr. Rob G. Appreciate it. Uh, Woo Writers Derek Galloway, Preston Dennis said he was one of the first people in Stephen Greer's CE5 group back in the late 80s. He said over a few years, they only had a few sightings. Yeah, I think I heard that as well. And saying I'd call it more telepathy than channeling. Okay. Yeah, saying you cannot force them to show themselves. Yeah, and I hear that. But if the success rate is so high, then you would figure you would have to be able to. And I use force. I didn't, when I used force, it was more for the headline, right? I know we technically can't force them to do anything, but I put that in the title because it's more about what can we do from our end to facilitate something like this happening. But I put force in there for a reason. That was a key word. Let's see. There are many trickster energies. Only thing I ask is a lot of questions. There are many trickster energies and never make any agreements. Yeah. Let's see. Wow, this is wild. Zach Baggins did exorcism live on TV in a seance, and people online got sick who were watching. Even my girlfriend, her mom and daughter did too. They couldn't finish the live stream. That's wild. But if it's a real, that's the thing. If it's real, then you might expect something like that, right? Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, you're right. Charging for CE5 is wrong. I am down CE5 live event. And condolences, Mike Jones. Unfortunately, lost my wife to cancer in July. Doing best I can. God has her now. Prayers and all that goes out to you, Mike Jones. Let me see. Okay, that looks pretty current here. Laser pointers in red and green truly work when attracting them. I've seen some of that happening with the lasers, and I've seen the things responding, right? So thing is that maybe they're waiting for us to do something like that. Maybe they, how can we know what the perception is for them and us when we have a barrier in between us, technically, which is governments or powers that be. If you want to believe that they've ever talked to these things, which some people say they have, that they made deals and all sorts, we don't know, but that's one of the stories that's out there, right? So how do you kind of get around that and just say, hey, we want to talk to you directly, humanity, extraterrestrial, we want to make this direct connection without anyone in the middle, and we want to be able to have this conversation, whatever it is. We don't even know what we're going to say when we do, but the thing is that, if they're out here putting on these shows like they flew over my head in the middle of the day, clear blue skies, 47 objects, when that sort of stuff happens, they're trying to say something, right? They're trying to say something. And so maybe in that moment, if I had, if I tapped into some other ability, maybe the communication lines could have opened up there. I don't know, but I can tell you that they definitely have no problem being seen in certain instances, and you have to ask yourself why. But moving on, we have, this is something that just off the cuff, right? I thought about this, modern day pictographs. And I just put the Nazca lines on here because there's really no reason why those things could have been created, but to try to have direct contact with these things in the sky. You have to look at that. That's one of the big theories going around about the Nazca lines, is that literally they're drawing these things for visitors from up above, because those objects can only be seen from a super high vantage point, which back at the time these were made, we didn't have the ability ourselves to go up high enough to see these. So why else were they created? So imagine if we did something like that today. I thought about this. I don't know if it would work, but it's just a thought, right? What if we had, and we wouldn't obviously have to carve things in the ground in this day and age, but what if we had like some huge LED screens, right, on the ground, facing up at the sky, huge ones, pretty big, and like, let's just say maybe football field size. Let's just go there, maybe bigger, but just say the size of a football field, and a screen that will project images pointed up above. And the images that you would depict would be things like the glowing lights we see in the sky, or some of the crafts, like videos of different sightings that we have captured from the ground, right? So like the Phoenix lights, like any of the other ones that we have, any of the real good videos that we have, if we were to play those on a screen, on a rotating loop, right, in key spots on the planet, we had a screen in California, a screen in Nebraska, a screen in Florida, a screen in uh, Canada, a screen in South America. If we had screens depicting their craft, they would probably recognize that we're showing them their own craft. So that to them should be acknowledgement, like, hey, they know we're here. They're showing us that we know that they know that we're here. The same way that these pictographs would have been done, just communication using pictures, using images, right? So what if we did something like that? Do you think that that would trigger some sort of response? I would think it would. If they can realize what it is they're looking at, it would trigger to them, like, hey, they're trying to communicate with us by showing us our own craft. So they're telling us that they know that they're aware that we're up here, right? So then at that point, does that open the door for them to say, hey, okay, now we're going to show up? Everyone on the globe apparently knows that we're up here. They're acknowledging that they see us by having these pictures on a loop, right? I think that could have some traction. I think, if there was some sort of nonprofit organization or somebody they could put something like that together, I think that could be one of the keys to doing it, along with the other things that we've talked about today. I think that would be a way to really get their attention and maybe have them respond. Maybe. So let me see. Moving on here. Yeah, those things are not question. Are those symbols burnt like by a laser? I don't think they are. I think they're just like dug out in the ground, and I think the dirt is either lighter when you dig under than the surface soil is. And so it leaves, like, if you're down on the ground, it kind of looks like somebody just drug their feet, right? But if you're down close to one of these things, but yeah, but they've been there for thousands of years, and they've seen these, right? So these are old messages for whatever reason they did that, but I think that it's definitely a good way to at least get their attention, like, hey, we want to interact, right? So I think that could be a thing there. So let's see. Let's see. Yeah, I believe this too, Simon. I think if more people make time to meditate, be more kind to each other, ET will notice the good in us, not just when we let off nukes. Yeah, I can agree with that. I can agree with that. Let's see. Yeah, they removed the top layer of the pebbles. I think that's what I saw as well. Area 51. Yeah, so that's just another way, right, to get their unspoken contact, unspoken acknowledgement of their presence, showing them, hey, we see you. These are your craft. They're like, hey, that's my craft, or hey, that's a reptilian craft, or hey, they recognize that we're up here in the sky. They see us. They do. And so I think we could do, that can get their attention. But moving on, this is another one. And actually, I heard that they do this. This isn't one that we have an ability to do as humanity, but I've heard that the governments have tried luring UFOs into a certain area by essentially putting out something nuclear. Like in the middle of a desert, they had a guy who was a soldier. I can't remember who he was because I've said so many different stories, but there was a soldier who was on duty somewhere in the Mideast, and they had a crate that they didn't tell him what was in it, but he was there to guard this crate. And he in middle of the desert, nothing else around but this crate. And apparently it was a crate that had nuclear material inside of it, and they were putting it out there as like a lure to see if they could lure these things in. And they said that they were successful in doing that in some cases. So, obviously we don't have access to nuclear materials as humanity, but I just kind of threw that in there because supposedly this was a way that we were able to actually draw them in and to show themselves, right? So if they did this on a televised event where they had nuclear material sitting out and they had a camera on this nuclear material, you would eventually, I don't know if maybe in that moment, but you would eventually catch something anomalous showing up at the site of wherever this stuff is. And so with that being said, I think this just shows that there are ways that we have that we can not necessarily force them, but we can increase the likelihood that they show themselves in front of a group of people by taking some of the things that we have within ourselves, which are the first few things we talked about, which would be the remote viewing, the extraterrestrial channeling, and then the CE5. Three tools right there that are within this community that can increase the success rate drastically of us having that moment where we get to have contact. So the question is, who's willing to do it, right? That's why you see me always asking people who specialize in this stuff if it's something that we could arrange. I would like to be the one to put it together. I would like to have my name on that. Why not? Why not do that? Why not do that? You have channelers and C5 specialists and remote viewers who sit back and do this on their own. Why not do it with the group? Why not do it with the masses? Why not do it for humanity? Why not do it to move the needle and get us to that next step? Why not harness your abilities to go ahead and do that? Right? Why not? People say we want disclosure, but how do you really want it? Because if you want it, there's things that we're not doing that we can try that could potentially put us in a situation where we have at least that moment where we can, if lucky enough to get it on film, we can show the rest of the world. So with that being said, I think that covers that pretty well. We're going to go ahead and get ready to jump into our next segment of the show here, which is our Once Upon a Time in Ufology. It goes like this. All right. And actually, before we start it, we're going to actually start that in a moment. I want to do this. I forgot we have to ask the chat. We're going to ask the chat, what do you think is the best way for humanity to force contact? Not necessarily force, but to bring contact. You can answer that now in the chat, or you can answer it in the comment section later, or you can leave it on the line, the Ask the Chat line, the Social Dig line, which is 856-843-3444. You can leave it there as well. As we go ahead and jump into Once Upon a Time Ufology, this is where we talk to the newer crowd, right? It's just coming into ufology, right? Just trying to get their feet wet, and they don't know everything there is to know about ufology like most of us know pretty much all the stories. But this is for them, right? So this, we're going to talk about today, the Chicago O'Hare UFO from 2006, because I think this is one of the most epic sightings that should have moved the needle. This should have been one of the ones that cracked the case wide open. And I'm thinking maybe it's because of the time in 06, the stigma was still kind of heavy. Now I'm just imagining if something like this happened now in today's time, I think it would probably get a lot more press, obviously, and especially if we got images. I think this would be a pretty big deal here. So we're going to get into it right now. Chicago O'Hare sighting from 2006. On November 7th, 2006, an extraordinary event took place at Chicago O'Hare's International Airport, one of the busiest airports in the world. A flying object described by witnesses as a metallic disc-shaped craft was spotted hovering over United Airlines gate C-17 at approximately 4:30 p.m. The object, visible for about 5 minutes before shooting up through the clouds and vanishing, left behind a gaping hole in the cloud cover. This incident, now commonly referred to as the O'Hare UFO sighting, stands as one of the most intriguing and well-documented UFO sightings in recent history. Despite being witnessed by multiple people, including airport employees, pilots, and ground crew, the event was met with skepticism and downplayed by official authorities. The most compelling aspect of the O'Hare UFO sighting is the large number of credible eyewitnesses who reported seeing the unidentified object. Employees from United Airlines, including pilots, mechanics, and other ground crew members, claim to have seen a dark, metallic, disc-shaped object hovering silently over the airport. These witnesses provided consistent descriptions of the object's appearance, stating that it was stationary and did not emit any lights or noise. Several witnesses, speaking to the media anonymously for fear of losing their jobs, expressed their astonishment at the object's sudden disappearance in which it shot straight up through the cloud cover at an incredible speed, leaving behind a perfect circular hole in the cloud. While multiple people witnessed the event, none of the airport's radar systems detected the object, according to official reports. This lack of radar confirmation has been cited by skeptics as a reason to dismiss the sighting as a weather phenomenon or optical illusion. However, the clear, direct observations made by so many trained professionals make the sighting difficult to explain away. In the immediate aftermath of the sighting, witnesses reported the event to their supervisors at United Airlines and the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA. However, both United Airlines and the FAA were quick to dismiss the incident. United claimed it had no knowledge of the event, and the FAA initially stated it had not received any reports of unusual activity. Later, the FAA reversed this statement, acknowledging that some employees had reported the sighting but attributing the phenomenon to a weather event, specifically a hole punch cloud caused by aircraft. This official explanation did little to satisfy those who witnessed the object firsthand, and many found the response dismissive. Witnesses expressed frustration with the FAA's refusal to investigate further or take their account seriously. Some even speculated that a cover-up might be in place to avoid public panic or disruption to airport operations. Media coverage of the incident was initially limited, but as details of the sighting spread, it garnered national attention. Major news outlets such as CNN, the Chicago Tribune, and MSNBC picked up the story, drawing attention to the credibility of the witnesses and the peculiarities of the official response. The Chicago Tribune published an article in which several witnesses, including a United Airlines employee, described their experiences in detail. The article led to increased public interest and further speculation about what really happened at O'Hare that day. The O'Hare UFO sighting sparked numerous theories, ranging from the mundane to the extraordinary. The official explanation of a weather event has been challenged by many, particularly because hole punch clouds, where clear hole forms in cloud cover, are typically caused by a combination of temperature changes and moisture, not by flying objects suddenly ascending into the sky. Furthermore, witnesses insisted that the object they saw was a solid disc-shaped craft and not a natural weather phenomenon. So anyone who knows about, and I'm not sure if that is an actual image of the craft. There's images floating around that people say are authentic and some are not. There's no way to really tell. But this is one to just give you an idea of what this may have looked like. And with that being said, the FAA, if you go back on that story, United, there were people working on the tarmac that saw this. There were pilots in the plane, and from the reports, they had sat there with their windows, looking through their windows up at this object in the sky. There were, and this is 4:30, still sort of daylight. You had passengers that saw it. You had a lot of people. They were talking on the CBs, asking the others if they had saw this. But United and the FAA came out and denied that any of their workers had saw it. They didn't know that the workers were talking behind the scenes to a local reporter who ended up breaking the story and breaking the fact that, that there may be some sort of cover-up going on. But it just shows you, right? Cover up, cover up, cover up. That's the number one go-to. The FAA is, I think, is very much in cahoots with the United States government when it comes to covering up these things, because why wouldn't they be? They monitor the skies, right? And these things are in the skies. And I told you before, if you're going to do a FOIA request on FAA radar data or chatter, which is just like the air traffic control chatter, if you're going to FOIA that, you have to do it within 45 days or they purge that information. And I don't think a lot of people know that. So if you have a sighting in the sky and you want to go a step further and gather some radar data on it, you have to do it within 45 days of that incident taking place. That's a really short window of time when you think about it. for something as serious as something that, could be a hazard in the sky? Why would there only be 45 days for that? And I think that's because the FAA is definitely in cahoots with the United States government. And maybe we'll have that proven one day. But with that being said, that is the Chicago O'Hare UFO incident. For all those new to ufology, it's a big one. And for those who have been in this for a minute, you know that this is one of the most compelling encounters out there. So we're going to go ahead and get ready now to jump into our science fiction and science fact movie of the night. And this is a good one. I've had this one before, but I want to bring this back for season 2. So, science fiction, science fact movie of the week here is going to be Dark Skies. Those who have been here for a while know that I've had this on here before. Dark Skies is an epic film. I'm going to give you a synopsis of it real quick here. So Dark Skies is a supernatural horror thriller that centers on the Barrett family who live in a quiet suburban neighborhood. As unexplained events begin occurring at their home, strange marks appearing, household items rearranging themselves, and eerie disturbances, the family is plunged into fear and confusion. As the phenomena intensify, they start believing they are being targeted by something far beyond their understanding. This film explores themes of alien abduction and the impact of paranormal experiences on family dynamics, blending psychological tension with suspenseful mystery as the Barretts race to uncover the truth behind the dark forces invading their lives. And once again, that is the science fiction, the science fact movie of the week. We do this because, once again, in 2017, it was made clear to me that there's something to the phenomena, that there's definitely something real going on here, especially after my sighting and then the things that you guys all know that happened afterwards. So the idea of this segment is for you now, with this knowledge that things are happening and things are here, go back and watch some of these movies that we show here, and you'll see these movies through a new lens, right? This movie is probably the closest thing that I could imagine the feeling of a family going through an alien abduction experience. This movie takes you there, right? So you may not have heard of it, you may have heard of this, but this is definitely a must watch. So this is the movie for the week. Try to watch it by next time we do the show, by next Wednesday when we come up with the new movie. Tell me what you thought. Tell me how you felt after you watched this film. Let me know. Leave it in the comments of this video, or just come on live next week and let me know. With that being said, that is the science fiction, the science fact movie of the week. We're going to get ready to take this thing home. Just like this. Thank you for coming over to the Social Dig. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for having a great time with us. Thank you for helping move the needle. We totally appreciate that. And we're going to go ahead and get into some other stuff here. Yes, the shows. So you are at the show on the far left. This is the Social Dig. Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific time. You can come here and catch the show. Fridays, excluding this Friday, though, we won't have one this Friday because I have to do a different show. But normally, Fridays at 5 p.m. Pacific, right here on this channel, you catch my experience with the phenomena, where viewers like yourself come on stage and talk about your experience with the phenomena. And then late night call-in show, that happens on Saturday at right about 11:30 p.m. Pacific time, right as soon as we get done with the after hour show over at Spaced Out Radio. You come right on over here and we just talk it out. We've had some great conversation the last couple weeks here. Definitely want to make sure that you guys take part in that. Also, the social shop. We got swag over there. Make sure you guys go ahead and check that out as well. Hoodies, all sorts of stuff. Anything you do or give to the channel goes to making this thing a better produced product. It gets better and better and better. So any help would be, appreciated. Not necessary to buy anything or to become a member or do any of those things, because the content is always free. There's never a paywall for the content. However, anything you can do to support the channel to make this a better product is definitely appreciated. We do this for one reason. You see it right there on the screen: humanity, the positive progression in humanity. We want these conversations to move the needle. We want these conversations to be in perpetuity for people who come at a later time to say, hey, you know what, that really got my mind going. It got me thinking. And that's really what we want to do. Everybody down there at the bottom, that represents each one of you. That represents me. That represents all of us. We are all one unit. We are all humanity, and we move the needle together. Just like today's show, right? So there are ways. Maybe we can get alien contact. We can help move this needle. We can expedite the process at the very least, or at least get their attention and let them know, hey, we're down here, we see you, and vice versa. So with that being said, we have the phone number here, 856-843-3444. That's 856-THE-DIGG. Lock it in your phone. Drop me a message at any time. This has been the Social Dig. I want to thank everybody for coming in tonight. You guys have been awesome. Thanks for your support, and I will see you all next time right here. Keep your notification bell lit. That way you know next time we go live. Outside of that, you guys have a great rest of your night. And like I said, I'll see you next time. You guys all take care. Later.